Are you tired of hearing about the misconceptions and myths around hybrid authorship? I have four experienced writers here today who will offer valuable insights and information and their perspective on what it really means to be a hybrid author. Don't miss this opportunity to learn from the experts and to get the real truth. If you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Katlyn Duncan, and I'm a hybrid author, which means I publish both traditional and independent books. Here on my channel, we talk about the writing process and all the bookish things. And this month, I am releasing my next nonfiction book for authors, The Successful Hybrid Author, where I talk about how you can become a hybrid author, and the book includes case studies with four incredible authors from which you're going to hear from today. And as a special bonus, if you pre-order The Successful Hybrid Author and you email me your proof of purchase at this address, also linked in the description, then you will automatically get a free starter workbook on how to become a hybrid author today. And for the month of January only, my first nonfiction book, Take Back Your Book, An Author's Guide to Rights Reversion and Publishing on Your Terms, is available for only 99 cents for the ebook. This book is a must-read for any author looking to take control over their career. So let's get on with the interviews.
I think it's thinking that you have to slot into the complete trad mindset. And you don't. And that was the interesting thing about this for me, is that because I went in from indie, it was different conversations, I think, than the conversations I've heard authors going purely down the trad route first having. So, that conversation about the different rights, or do you want to sell all of them? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? A lot of the control came back to me. And I think I had the misperception or misconception that if I went and sold sub-rights, that I wouldn't have as much choice and flexibility in how the contract worked. It really genuinely was a negotiation. Like, it was a negotiation. It wasn't this is the contract and this is what you're going to get. And I think that I had assumed that would be the case. And if anything, it might give me a bit more confidence and a bit more gumption if I choose to query this other book in this other genre, to be a bit more picky and a bit more choosing. It's quite empowering, I think, a bit more empowering than maybe just going and selling world rights for the life of copyright, to get the validation of trad. So yeah, I think it's the mindset. I just thought that if I sold rights, that would be it, and I'd have no choice and all the rest of it. And it wasn't really like that. It was actually quite surprising in a good way.
I suppose probably that, to have a traditional publisher means you don't do as much work. Because I think, like I said before, I'm finding more and more the onus is still on the author to do the promotion, to do the marketing, to continually drum up interest. And I think there is this assumption that the traditional publisher does all that for you, and they don't. They might, I think also an interesting thing is, in traditional publishing, a newly released book has a 6-week window of, hard promotion and building up buzz and all of that stuff. And then afterwards, it's just kind of okay, next thing. Whereas as an indie author, like you asked before, how do you capitalize on your backlist? We're constantly going back to that first book in that first series, or however far back you want to go, and trying to breathe new life back into our catalog and start readers who might have found us on, book 2 of a new series. We're saying, hey, did you know I've got other stuff that you can read while you're waiting for the next book to come out? And the traditional publishers, I don't think, really do that sort of rotational marketing with an author's catalogue. Maybe if you're a massive author and you've got a special edition of something, one of your older things, maybe a 10-year anniversary edition or something like that. But yeah, I would say probably the biggest myth for me is that the traditional publishers do all the marketing and do all the promotion, because they don't.
I guess the biggest one is that there's more control when you're self-published, which to a certain extent there is, but also that can really work against you. What I'm fond of saying is have you seen the way authors dress? I don't think they should be in charge of their own cover art most of the time. I think that's a terrible idea. So yeah, please, a lot of authors don't do your own covers. I know you like the idea of that control, but your taste is terrible. And that's because it's like the label on a shampoo bottle what the cover is doing for your book is alienating the wrong readers and finding the right readers. It most of the time has nothing to do with what's inside the book. It has to do with finding your readers. It's a symbol of your book. It's not it's the ad. It's the first ad for your book is your cover. And a lot of authors can't separate themselves enough from their babies to put the correct cover onto that baby. So, anyway, so yes, I guess the big one for me is that be careful of the control that you think you have when you're self-published. Be aware of the complete lack of control that you have when you're traditionally published, but also understand that a lot of the control you have as a self-publisher is kind of a myth. Because there's a lot of big corporations that you are working with whose business it is to make money off of your IP, just the way Trad's business is to make money off of your IP, and none of them are on your side. Amazon's not on your side. Traditional publishing most of the time also not on your side, and that's because it's their business to make money off of you. They're just doing their jobs. So the only person you have genuinely advocating for yourself in this dynamic at all is you as an author, which I guess brings me to like that one piece of advice that I feel like it is very important, which is educate yourself as much as possible, podcast, blogs, whatever it is. Also have friends who are other authors. Try to have friends who are other authors who are a little further ahead of you in their careers and at the same level as you in their careers wise. You need people to talk to about the business side of this. You need people to compare contract terms with. You need, if it's a Facebook group, whatever it is, you need a place where you can go when Amazon puts you in the dungeon and you're freaking out and you can be like, how do I get out of this situation? The only way like we have a resource and protect ourselves is with fellow authors. So that would be my big one, I guess. Find yourself fellow authors.
This is more of a mindset thing, and I'm going to say it with a lot of gentle love because this is an interesting myth thing that happens. I talk to writers who say, well, I don't know if I want to be traditionally published or self-published or hybrid published. And I think it is healthy and important for people to remember that nobody can choose to be traditionally published. And that is messed up, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way because traditional publishing is a closed system. It is scared. It is tight. The pandemic made things worse. But it's always been bad. It's always been hard to become traditionally published, right? Just period. And that's okay. You can still keep fighting for it. But I think switching the mindset to, I can choose to be indie published and I can choose to attempt to be traditionally published. Those are your choices. And for people who want to choose to attempt to be traditionally published, the second corollary that goes with that is be as stubborn as Ed, rack up at least 100 rejections from agents. Then those, and when you get an agent, if you get an agent, because agents are also running scared. No one is sure what will sell, what will stick. But when you get an agent, they might have trouble selling this beautiful book to a publisher, and it almost never has anything to do with you, your book, the quality. If you have written the most beautiful book that will change the world and set it on fire, about, let's say, early onset Alzheimer's, but a book came out last month that was about early onset Alzheimer's that did pretty well, either people are going to say, well, no, there's no more room to talk about that, or they're going to, and then rejecting everything that comes across the door. And I'm talking about agents and editors right now, that they see with that in there, or they're going to react differently and say, oh, that one did really well, I need another one. But you never know what is actually going on behind closed doors. If you send your space fantasy about zebras in space to an agent who loves it more than anything she's ever seen before, but she's trying to sell a space fantasy with zebras in it right now, she cannot take you as a client. And she will never tell you that she can't take you as a client because she has a space fantasy about zebras. She's not allowed to do that, but she must reject you, even if it is the best book that ever happened. So you just have to keep being stubborn and know how far you're going to take this book. I've had students and friends with successes of saying, okay, I'm going to rack up 100 rejections on this book from agents, and then I'm going to self-publish it or reevaluate where I am. while I'm writing the next book, and then I'm going to do the same thing. But you're always writing forward. You're always moving forward. And you're not a failure. You're never a failure if you don't get into traditional publishing. Traditional publishing in so many ways right now is the failure. So, but if you want it, keep going for it. Just be stubborn as hell.